Captain Marvel was problematic,
but also pretty fun.
Let's discuss that. Good day, cinema connoisseurs and movie fans alike. Welcome to Left and Right Reviews. My name is Lefty, here to critique and analyze.
And I'm Righty, here to fanboy and enjoy.
And we just watched Captain Marvel, the final film before Avengers Endgame. But before we begin, let us address the elephant in the room.
What? There were elephants in the room? Was there a deleted scene where they went to a zoo or something?
That's not what I meant. I'm talking about the political controversy surrounding the movie. Are you familiar with that at all?
Well, I've been on the internet for more than 5 seconds, so of course I've heard of it. I think judging films based on politics is so dumb. What do you think?
I'm in agreement. I judge films based on individual merit and objective quality rather than the political landscape surrounding them. Unless politics are an integral part of the plot, then discussing them is pretty much inevitable.
You said it! I think.
As far as the objective quality of Captain Marvel is concerned, it's easily one of Marvel's weakest films in a long time in terms of writing, visuals, and most of all, characters.
But it does still have a lot of Marvel's signature charm, with some fun fight scenes, big-scale climaxes, and some pretty funny jokes.
Well, I certainly have a lot to criticize here, so while I prepare my notes, why don't you begin with positives, Righty?
With pleasure! First and biggest pro was Samuel L. Jackson. He absolutely stole the show during every scene he was in. We all know modern-day Nick Fury as a cold, calculated leader with a bit of a sarcastic edge to him. But since this takes place in the past, we get a look at what he was like when he was a younger S.H.I.E.L.D. operative, and it was a lot of fun. He's much more loose and fun and quirky and goofy. It's a side of him we never really got to see, and it added so much to the movie. Plus, seeing a 70-year-old guy that still has this much charisma was an absolute treat.
Speaking of 70, I must admit that Samuel L. Jackson's age was practically unnoticeable during his performance. His acting talent combined with the amazing special effects used to de-age his body and face were seamless. Obviously they needed to call in a stunt double for the action scenes, but he played a very convincing young Nick Fury and was probably the best actor in the whole film. Not that he had much competition.
The action scenes were a ton of fun too. There's this one scene in the train where they keep switching environments, like they start inside the train and doing flips and using the hand railings to kick each other in the face, and then they started fighting on top of it, and Nick Fury needs to fight inside of his car. It was pretty great. Then there was this one scene inside an alien spaceship where Captain Marvel finally unleashes all her power, and she just starts firing lasers at everything and throwing people against the wall. It was a rush. Though the song choice was kinda weird. Did they forget that Star-Lord was the one with the silly throwback music?
I guess some of those scenes were well choreographed for certain, at least when you can actually see what's going on. The very first action scene near the beginning was so dark and poorly lit it was highly difficult to even identify what was happening half the time. But for the most part, I'd agree that they were well put together. Is there anything else you liked?
Well, there was a kitty in it. We got to see Kitty playing on the dashboard and Nick Fury playing with the kitty. Kitties are just always adorable to watch. At least when they're actually there and not super fake looking.
So you noticed that too, eh?
Yeah, some of the CGI felt a little off at times.
You say sometimes, I say all the time. The computer-generated elements of the film, aside from de-aging Nick Fury, were very plain. Backgrounds were clearly green screen and very generic looking, the superpowers, while flashy, were completely uninteresting, and the entire first portion of the movie was just a nightmare. Not only was it poorly paced, trying to throw scene after scene and exposition after exposition at you before you even got to know the characters or the world, but every single environment was just a mess of CGI, and none of it felt real or was even that creative to look at. Give credit to many past Marvel films, even if their effects looked fake, at least what was on screen was rather creative.
You said it! Nothing spells creativity like red and white stripes. You guys did it before, it was cool.
The best looking parts of the film by far were on Earth, where everything felt realistic and was given a facelift to resemble the time period it took place in. Nostalgic set pieces, practical effects,
Game Boys?
Game Boys, and some entertaining shot composition. As far as the plot is concerned, it was passable. I've seen a few stories where the characters get their memories back piece by piece, and the execution for the most part was fine. Very bland and containing a few plot holes, but fine. The comedy is much more sparse than in most Marvel movies, and the few jokes they did write in were very hit and miss. Two in particular involving Larson's cat and the origin of Nick Fury's missing eye were well set up, but those are very few and far between. But while the plot was very standard, the pacing after Captain Marvel arrives on Earth was very fluid and went forward at a comfortable speed.
I'm with you on that. It was way better than the rush job at the beginning. Like, oh, here's a flashback, and oh, here's her waking up, and oh, here's a training scene, oh, here's a train ride, and a big brain machine, and a space battle. Blech. I was kind of hoping we would get some nice scenes with the main character before we set them off on a big adventure. That way we could care about her more.
Speaking of the main character...
Oh boy, here we go.
The rumors are true. Captain Marvel really is as bad of a protagonist as they say. And for one single reason. She is a plot device and nothing else. I will need to go into story beats for this discussion, so expect a few brief spoilers.
Don't you mean a few brief spoilers?
One more pun out of you and we're watching Justice League again.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
CGI Superman mouth.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Good. Now tell me, what is one memorable scene that delves into Captain Marvel's character?
Well, there's that part where we see the montage of all the time she fell down and got back up again, which was pretty neat. Shows that she has determination.
All right, anything else?
I can't really remember anything.
Exactly. Captain Marvel as a character has exactly 2 character traits. She never gives up, and she's very powerful. And that is all. In fact, there's one scene in the movie taking place in a bar which perfectly summarizes how Nick Fury and Captain Marvel's characters are like night and day. They're testing each other to make sure they aren't Skrulls by asking questions. Nick reveals some charming personal anecdotes about his past, showing that he's a well thought out and deep character with a lot of interesting things to say. But when Nick tests Captain Marvel, all she does is shoot a laser at a wall. I understand this is played as a joke, but it's rather ironic since Captain Marvel has more scenes where she fires lasers at things than scenes where she actually develops. Door locked? Fire a laser. Enemy wants to fist fight? Fire a laser. Ships are attacking Earth?
Fire a laser! Fire a laser!
In fact, Captain Marvel is so devoid of personality, there's a scene where her pilot friend needs to straight up explain what kind of person she was right to the audience's face. Would have been nice if maybe we got to see some of that personality in a flashback or something, aside from just seeing her determination and nothing else.
Yeah, kinda sad since the characters of Marvel movies are usually the best part. Captain America's undying passion to do what's right no matter what stands in his way, Doctor Strange's evolution from selfish, corrupt doctor to changed man, Iron Man coming to grips with how destructive and harmful his family's business was and then turning it around, literally every character in Guardians of the Galaxy, period. These movies are the best because the characters are the best. They're so funny and charming and unique and deep, I just love them all so much.
I'd happily agree with you there. Even if the plot is rather simple, the characters can still carry the film just because of how likable and compelling they are. But Captain Marvel's cast is very bland by comparison. Aside from the titular character, there's her friend from the Air Force who has a daughter. That's all. Talos, who has a family and desires to find a new home for his people. A bit better, but that's all. Even the twist villain at the end is very poorly established. He wants to kill the Skrulls, but for what reason exactly? He said that he's very driven by the divine leadership of the Kree people, but is that it? He simply wants to kill the Skrulls because they're inferior life forms to them? Seems like a very weak motivation, to be honest. It's as if they took the gold-faced sovereign aliens from the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 movie and made them the primary antagonists, since they're so obsessed with perfection, and that's about it.
Aw, but I like Talos reuniting with his family. I know he didn't get a lot of establishment, but that scene where he hugs his kid and kisses his wife really did tug at the heartstrings for me.
Even if his face looked like a discount Green Goblin mask?
Hey, you leave William Dafoe out of this!
At the end of the day, if you're going to do a memory loss movie such as this, you need to do one of 2 things, maybe both if you're good enough. You either need to make the protagonist very likable so that you want to see them get their memory back, or you need to make the mystery of how they lost their memory intriguing so that the audience will want to follow it. Captain Marvel comes close with the latter with a few twists and turns, but ultimately falls flat with some predictable story beats and a non-compelling lead. I certainly don't blame Brie Larson for the blandness of Captain Marvel, as I think she did the best she could have given the script. The writing was clearly the weak link here, not necessarily the acting.
I think it could have been a Marvel classic with some spit and polish, but what we wound up getting was still pretty fun. I'll always remember the good parts it had.
Alrighty, let's fill out our mind meters for this movie. I'm giving Captain Marvel a 40% rating. A few impressive elements and 1 or 2 charming scenes make this a passable viewing experience at least one time, but the bland protagonist, inconsistent tone, and unmemorable sidecast will likely prevent me from watching it many times in the future. Marvel can do infinitely better than this and have in the past, so this is mostly skippable in my eyes.
Well, I'm giving it a 60%. I think the action, the jokes, and a young Nick Fury make this a pretty fun watch. It's still got some classic Marvel charm and fun factor, even if there are a few shortcomings.
Also, that Marvel logo at the beginning was just so beautiful. That alone earns it an extra 10%. So that comes to a combined score of 50%. Take of that what you will and decide for yourself if it's worth viewing.
Thanks a bunch for watching, everyone! And don't forget to like and sub if you had fun.
We hope to see you all for Avengers Endgame, something that Righty has been preparing a very long time for.
Come on, put on your wig already. We gotta practice Get Help.
We're not doing Get Help.
Come on, you love it.
I hate it.
You got a better way to end the video?
No.
We're doing it.